On a general project, how many people are involved?
So when I was doing production assistant, I was in charge of 20 animators. Right. So I had to look over the progress of 20 different animators for 3 months to 6 months.
Right.
And that itself is intensive because they're not necessarily in the studio. They could be working somewhere else.
Right.
And I had to call them. They might not pick up. Then I'll call them again. They don't pick up.
Yeah.
Then I'll call them again. So if they call and pick up, communicate, that's just a really amazing animator just to me at the time.
I'd be a great actor.
But nowadays, I mean, if you look at the credits, there's like hundreds of animators involved.
Right.
I mean, back then, what I experienced and things people experience now is totally different. I can't even imagine what people are going through right now because I've been away from that side.
Yeah. Because it seems like a lot of the time, especially talking to, Ken Arto, the other animator we had on, is that it becomes common, I guess. I'm not sure how common it actually is, but it seems like it's common for a lot of anime projects to be, let's say, behind schedule, right? And I guess I wonder how, is it because the estimation is wrong, or is it a different thing every time that so many anime projects always seem to be behind schedule and there seems to be a lot of crunch in like the animation industry?
I think every situation is different, but a lot of times, a lot of people are trying to make it better.
Right.
Their ambition's very big.
Okay.
It could be from individual level to a production level ambition.
Right.
I feel that's, because especially recently, I feel there's just been so many more news articles coming out about this anime has been delayed. This anime has been delayed. And I feel like I'm sure there's been delays over, the entire history of anime production, but it's something about just recently. Have you noticed this as well? So many shows are getting delayed.
I mean, I feel like it's
probably
one
a good thing.
It's
yeah, maybe.
It means, but people are taking more time.
I hope so.
And I feel like that's just kind of like a symptom with many more anime shows being made. So a lot of them are going to be delayed, I guess.
I just hope that it is because of a quality issue and not the guy creating the schedule just fucked up and overestimated everything, right?
Well, it sounds like from you, a lot of people in the anime industry are just perfectionists.
I mean, I understand. If they wait a day longer, they might get something better. Before one day.
I mean, if I was working on one project for 5 years, I'd probably be a perfectionist too. I'm not gonna be like, it's done, it's good enough, whatever.
Actually, at Orange, it's totally done differently.
Right.
We actually simulate the entire production because if we don't do that, there's gonna be a piece that's missing. We're gonna be fucked. We can't actually get past that piece.
Right.
Because if it's hand drawn, they'll just say just draw it.
Yeah.
If it's CG, tools can't do that. We can't do that. We can't get over that. We can't say, we need this tool by tomorroay.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. So.
Right.
Shit. Okay.
Damn.
So, sorry.
I'm just thinking about how, I guess Japan is kind of notorious having a pretty brutal work-life balance, and anime even more so. Like you mentioned, sometimes you sleep on the floor. But it sounds like Studio Orange is also a lot more forward-thinking and kind of modern when it comes to the approach of that. I'm just wondering, do you have any thoughts on crunch, or if there's a difference between crunch and just normal Japanese work-life balance, which it sounds like everyone is in crunch all the time in Japan?
I think it's because our way of thinking is different, is because that we're not technically an anime studio. We're a CG studio. And that, first of all, because the workforce comes from workforce that we share with gaming.
Right.
So, I mean, when people get out of college or whatever, the school, or they train themselves, we're constantly competing with the gaming industry to get people.
Right.
So their starting point is their expectation in what they look for work is completely different.
Right.
You're like, hey, we think you'd be great for this.
So yeah, that's the starting point for us. So that's why it's so different. What we do is very anime-like,
Right.
but how people come into the industry is totally different.
Right. You kind of set the standards to that more akin to like the gaming industry than the standard anime industry, right?
So in our case, it's 90% employee. So they're all our employee instead of hand-drawn. It's 90% hand-drawn.
Right.
So, freelance, sorry.
Yeah, right.
In your experience, before Orange, how much, if there's an anime production there, how much would be like in-house workers versus, let's say, freelance animators or, animators outside of the studio?
Before Orange was all just industry standard, so
Right.
mostly freelancers.
Mostly freelancers.
I mean, at Orange, I mean, I'm not sure if this is something we intended to grow it this way, but I mean, now it is. So we like to keep it. It is. We don't want to go into like 90% freelancers.
Yeah, because I've noticed even now, like there's a lot, like it didn't used to be this way, but I've noticed there are a lot more people who, you know, maybe I followed on Twitter, just for like, I like the artwork or something, and then I follow them for like long enough time and they get picked up by an anime studio or they end up working on an anime project. I'm like, when did this start to happen? You know?
What did they do before Twitter?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine because I'm not in that side anymore.
Yeah. I'm curious, how much do you pay attention to like fan reaction in terms of like Studio Orange's works?
In that case, a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I'm constantly on Twitter to look at responses.
I'm sorry, sorry you have to do that.
But I mean, positive or negative, it's all part of the responses that we need.
Right.
There's got to be one though. You're like, shut up. What are you? You don't know shit.
No, I mean, there's always a season 2, please. But
You're being too nice.
I can't say anything because it's not my position to say anything.
I'd be like, no, I got you. You're a piece of it.
I mean, I totally understand. Would love to have it, but I can't say anything.
It's like Beastars season 3 went. Shut up.
No, I mean, I would love to talk about it, but not right yet.
Yeah, right.
What is like? This is gonna sound so weird because it's Twitter, but what is some useful like responses you see on Twitter versus
Trick question.
versus like?
I mean, I don't really focus on individual responses. It's really the amount of energy.
Right.
Where's the energy? Where's the expectation as a whole?
Yeah.
Where is it going?
I think honestly we do the same thing. Like I don't read individual YouTube comments. I'm just like, what's the vibe?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
general comments, like
Yeah.
what people feel, you know, because you can kind of get the general kind of sentiment, which I find is more useful than just one guy who's maybe annoyed that you didn't draw Legoshi with a bigger bulge or something. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you know what I mean? Like it's not helpful. Like, like getting the general, like you said, energy is so much more helpful.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Do you ever like incorporate that into what feedback goes into your future works, or is it more just to get the vibe of, okay, this show's doing well right now, people like it?
I mean, I think I really see anime as something really fantastic.
Yeah.
When I first discovered Perfect Blue, it was amazing. I didn't know anime could do this kind of sensation to me.
Yeah.
So I want to create that sensation to as much people as possible.
Oh, fuck yeah.
And this means that I want to create people to be communicating via anime.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, you guys invited me for Trigun Stampede,
Yeah.
and having a conversation. This is what I wanted to do with
hell
anime.
yeah.
So how can I do this with more people?
Right.
Is what I focus on. So using that, what I learned from how people are reacting, try to implement on the creative and the business side as well.
Now I have to watch it.
Because
Some of you got to maybe watch anime.
Yeah.
God, yeah.
Because okay, I'm curious because there is something very specific about Trigun. Because I was almost planning to do a video on it and I didn't have the time, unfortunately. But it felt
You
like
can talk about it now.
no. Because my gauge as just a viewer going through comments and everything like that, a big complaint when the series was airing, at least not when it was finished, was people just like OG fans of the original Trigun being like, this isn't like the original Trigun. This feels totally different. Vash's design is so different.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? And it seemed like reading from like some of the, I guess, interviews that the creative team had done before its release, it was almost like you were maybe expecting it in a way. Because I remember a big message was just like, "Hey, this isn't the original Trigun. Just leave your judgment until the series ends." Was that something that you expected? That kind of like reaction?
I mean, I got the same reaction as I told you earlier when I first looked at the show, the concept arts and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So based on that, I knew that. I mean, it's a precious thing to everyone.
Yeah.
So how can we make something precious and create another precious thing?
Right.
So it's not to overwrite that preciousness. It's
Yeah.
create something even more precious on the side of it.
Okay.
So we were very closely doing meetings with the the promotion team, the marketing team for the
Right.
Trident. And we couldn't do it for global messaging, but for whatever we had hands on, we tried to be very specific about what language to use, what words to use,
Right.
what tone to use.
Okay.
I know a lot of things were under wide interpretation, but we
Yeah.
tried to make sure to limit that interpretation as much as
So
possible.
that you wouldn't like step on the toes of the original in a sense,
I
right?
was
Yeah.
going to ask a question actually, where you kind of just touched on it a little bit. Was when you said the messaging between the global and Japanese audience, how do you normally kind of navigate the worldwide audience versus the Japanese market? Is there like, what kind of conscious differences or any slight changes do you do depending on the cultures?
That's really hard. I never really put it into words myself. I use my senses to really navigate.
Yeah,
through
well,
that.
okay, obviously you know, very unique background, being able to speak fluent English and
Yeah.
Japanese. So you're probably a bit more in tune with both sides. Whereas I imagine a lot in Japan, it's kind of like they're very much focused on Japan and we'll worry about the rest of the world. They'll get it when they get it.
Like, I don't see race.
Like, you mentioned that you would read Twitter. Like, is this English Twitter or Japanese Twitter or both?
Both, yeah.
Is there a big difference in vibe or response to Trigun?
First of all, Twitter culture between languages is different.
Yeah, of course.
So, I mean, depending on how fans enjoy it. So, are you a cosplayer? Are you a fan artist? I mean, just like by that, people, how they enjoy is different. So, I really want to be careful about how I face each group of communities.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest vibe difference between, let's say, the Japanese Twitter side of the response and the Western,
I mean,
like
Japan
international side?
as a culture, I mean, if you go to movie theaters, people don't clap at the movies. Where in America, where we clap at movies. I mean, even though there's not directors or anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed that movie. I want to clap. so I
Yeah,
clap.
exactly.
But Japan, they enjoyed it, but they just quietly walk out. So that kind of culture is also reflected on Twitter. So not necessarily people like and retweet, but they won't comment. So
Right,
I really want people to comment because I see how more exact the reaction is instead
Yeah.
of just that liking. How did you like it?
Yeah.
Is what really matters to me.
Yeah, I'm the opposite. I wish they would comment less. I'm like, don't. You said that. Delete that. I'm kidding.
Be careful what you wish for.
I'm kidding.
Go back.
Fuck around and find out. Yeah, because like I guess that is another thing I noticed as well is that like a very common like cinema trait in Japan as opposed to the West is that in Japan they stay until the end of the credits.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always that awkward guy who's like, all right, I'm leaving. I'm not staying for this.
But I guess that's like that also shows that like I guess like in general maybe this is a stereotype, I don't know, but like I guess like the Japanese audience cares about like the people that like went into like working behind it. They're like, oh okay, I love this show so much, I want to know who was responsible for it all. Whereas maybe in the West, of course there are people who are interested in that, but maybe not, it's not the general consensus perhaps.
There's a higher intensity, I think, from what I've seen. Good
What do you
and bad.
mean?
Good and bad.
Yeah,
Good-
right,
when
right.
They, when they love something, they love saying, and when they aren't happy about it, they, especially in the anonymous forums, they love
Oh my
to
God, yeah.
love to complain.